surprise plan, but I'm sure there are recipes out there. Okay, well, it is a little after 1, so we'll go ahead and get started. As always, for our patch programs, we're going to do 3 things. We'll discover, we'll connect, and we'll take action. So for discover, we're going to learn about what a fairy garden is, some fun facts about fairies that have been passed down over generations, as well as some interesting facts about gardening, some gardening 101. And then we're going to practice making our own fairy garden. I have a couple different crafts that we're going to do together. And if you don't have all the supplies for all the crafts, no worries, make what you can. And also be super creative with the supplies that you do have. Maybe you don't have one of the things, but you can use other items to make it. So be super creative. Come up with your own fairy furniture that you can make and different fairy items for your garden. So if you don't have all the supplies, just be creative, do what you can. And then our take action portion will be to either gift your fairy garden to someone else or teach someone else how they can start their own fairy garden, maybe share some of the fun facts you learned about fairies or about gardening in general. So with that, we'll get started with our Discover, which is a little bit of fun facts about fairies. So throughout history, there's been lots of different information about fairies, but the basic definition: a fairy is a supposed magical being that flies in the air. Some fairies have certain jobs. Can anybody think of a fairy that has a particular job? My cat's trying to drink my water that is part of my supplies. Any fairies that have a particular job? You know. Bring the chair next to me. Tooth fairy, yeah. The tooth fairy is a very popular fairy. We know that the tooth fairy comes at night when we lose a tooth, and they leave maybe some change under our pillow for that tooth that we lost. And then some more information about fairies. A fairy tale is a story with a plot involving fairies. So fairies are generally described as a human in appearance and having magical powers. Diminutive fairies of one kind or another have been recorded for centuries. So fairies aren't a new thing. People have talked about fairies for centuries, for a long, long time, and I think the idea of fairies has changed a lot over time. But can you guys think of any other fairies that you heard of? Any fairies in different fairy tales? A fairy that you've heard of? Tinkerbell? Yep. That's definitely a popular one. She's definitely very popular. The Tooth Fairy, absolutely. Someone says there's fairies that take care of animals and open up the flowers. That's beautiful. Tinkerbell is a tinker fairy. That would make sense. Her name is Tinkerbell. The fairy godmother, yeah, from Cinderella. And Cinderella is a fairy tale because there's fairies in Cinderella. There's the fairy godmother. Fairy godmother, yep, definitely a popular one. Tinkerbell, the Tooth Fairy. Definitely some popular ones. Awesome. So before we start our fairy garden, you might want to take some time to plan it out. If you have a piece of paper, just take a pen and maybe draw whatever shape your fairy garden is and what you would like to put in it. So today we're going to be making a tent, a house, which I actually might end up making a bench. We'll see about that one. We're going to be making a clothesline, a fire pit, and a fence, and maybe a pathway. So you don't have to make all those things. You can make a couple of those things, all of them if you want, or your own things. So you might want to take a piece of paper ahead of time and just sort of plan out where you're going to be putting everything, so you have enough room for your flowers as well. Unfortunately, I don't have any flowers here to put in my fairy garden yet, but I'm going to put all my crafts in my fairy garden and leave some room for where I can plant some flowers. Okay. So we were talking about Tinkerbell. Do you guys remember in Peter Pan when Tinkerbell was sick, and Peter asked everyone to clap their hands to let her know that they believed in fairies so her light would not go out? Well, there are things you can do to let fairies know you believe in them. so you can be ready for fairies to visit your garden. So things to consider when you're planning out your fairy garden and the crafts that you're making for your fairy garden. Fairies need a space of their own for celebrations and festivals so they can dance. Fairies love to dance. And you might want to plant flowers that are useful to fairies. Flowers that they can use as hats, flowers with large petals for clothing, small plants for bedding, furnishing for the fairies. So what do you think might be important to put in your fairy garden? Some ideas that you guys have for the fairy garden. Someone said they're going to be making everything. That's awesome. Any ideas what we might want to put in our garden? I promise we're going to get to the crafts portion. Leaves or grass, definitely. Somewhere that they can sleep, something they can use to build. Flowers, yes. We're going to go over some flowers that fairies might like and some facts about fairies that have been passed down over time of the kind of flowers that fairies like. Big flowers for clothes or furniture, food and water, flowers. Yeah, definitely. A house for shelter, maybe a pond. That's a great idea. Okay, so let's get started on our fairy house. So I have a recipe for a clay that you can make with some common household items. So I have my big bowl here. And the first is flour. So I have a cup of flour. I'm going to go ahead and put that in. And I have half a cup of salt. Oh, somebody says moss is a good thing to have for your fairy garden. Yeah, moss would definitely make a great bed. A unicorn. Okay, mix that together. Okay. And then we have a tablespoon of vegetable oil. So I already have that measured out in this little cup. I'm going to sprinkle that in. And I've never made this before, so we'll see how it turns out. We might need to make a few adjustments. Well, somebody said a slide. I would love to have a slide in my fairy garden. I'm sure your fairies would appreciate that. And then we need half a cup of water. So I also have that already measured out. How much salt? Half a cup of salt. Oh, somebody answered you. Thanks, guys. Let me read those through again. You need a tablespoon of vegetable oil, half a cup of water, a cup of flour, half a cup of salt, and then I have food coloring as well. That's optional. The food coloring will make your clay obviously colored, but you don't have to have colored clay. That's up to you. And if you need to make the recipe a little smaller, this is going to make a decent amount of clay. But you can always cut that in half. It would be pretty easy to cut that in half. Oh, thank you, GSWPA, whoever's commenting. I have April. You guys have met April before. She is a camp director, so she's in our comments today, as well as one of my coworkers, Kim Henry. She's also a Girl Program Specialist, so you'll see them in the comments today. So thank you guys for sharing that recipe. Okay, I'm going to put in some food coloring, and I think I'm going to make my fairy garden like a blue-green theme. I'm going to get out my blue food color. You might be able to mix blue and green together and make like a teal. But I'm going to stick with just blue. Because I know, knowing me, I'll mess it up. It'll just be brown. So we'll put a couple drops in there. Looks like we might need a little bit more water, but it's starting to form a clay consistency, definitely. And I apologize to parents for any mess that we make today. Some of our supplies include lots of sticks and twigs, which I have sitting here, getting dirt everywhere. Apologies to my mom. What else do I have? I have string, I have some pebbles. I have so we need a cloth to make our tent. So I have an old t-shirt, an old tie-dye t-shirt that I'm using. I think that's everything. Maybe a pair of scissors. Add a little bit more water. Oh, my sister just joined. Hi, Lauren. If any of you were on our Fun Science Live, my sister Lauren was there. I just added a little bit more water because it's kind of sticking together, but I think I might have to switch to using my hands at this point. You can see the consistency there. It's starting to be clay-like that I'll be able to mold. Add a little more food coloring. And I'm going to get my hands in there. Like a light blue color. It looks like cookie dough, but I definitely wouldn't want to eat this. There's a lot of salt in there. So you might have to adjust it depending on how it's working for you. Might need a little bit more water, a little bit more flour, but I think mine's getting to be about the right consistency. Okay. I'm going to get my hands in there. Somebody said they already made their clay. Awesome. We're ahead of the game. Okay, so it's kind of like a dough consistency that I'm getting everywhere. Nice and sticky. I'm liking this light blue color. And if you're a baker, it might be helpful to put some flour on your hand so it doesn't stick quite so much. Okay. I think that's pretty good. Might be a little thin, but if you want, you can make a house. I think I might go for a bench. Well, let me start with a house first. So I'm going to make a base for my house first. Someone says don't eat it. Yes, I would not eat this. It would be very salty. There we go. So I'm just making like a circular base. But again, feel free to be creative. Make it any shape you want. It's sticking to my hand. I might need some more flour. It doesn't need to be too big because berries are pretty small. They sleep in flowers, so. There we go. So I have like a little circular base. I'm going to go ahead and start building my walls. I'm going to make the walls around in a circle. But you might be able to make a square house too. Again, feel free to be creative. You might have to use some of your engineering skills here. need to add a little bit more flour if it's kind of drooping. I think a little flour will make it sturdier. We're making the base here, just kind of building up the walls. I think it might be easier to hold them in my hands and make it like round and long, and then layer it around to build my walls up, if that makes sense. So we need a little more flour. Let me go grab a little more flour actually. Sprinkle that in front here. Rub that on my hands, that'll help with the sticking. And then if it's not sticky enough, definitely add some water, because that will make it more sticky. Okay, that's way better. Thank you guys for the advice. Sprinkle some flour on the bottom there. You can see it's starting to build up. If you have regular clay too, that would have been easier. I don't have clay on hand, so I found this recipe to make your own clay. But there's tons of recipes on clay that you can make. But I never knew you could make clay out of salt and flour. Might need to put a little clay on the bottom here, so it doesn't stick to my table. There we go. I can see better now. So while we're doing this, I have some more fun fairy facts that we can talk about. It says, whenever a seed sprouts, a garden or flower fairy is born. A flower fairy baby is born into this world. So anytime a flower sprouts, that means that a flower fairy was born. Very interesting. I might need to make my walls a little thicker because they're starting to slouch over. So I think I'll make everything a little thicker. That might work better. And if it doesn't work out, I always have, looks like a little fairy bed. Oh, I'm going to move it this way. There we go. Okay, and then for the roof, I was going to make kind of like a triangle. Let's try again. My clay's fallen. Hopefully your clay building is going a little better than mine. There we go. That's a little better. And then once you're all finished, if you leave this out in a warm place, probably just out on your kitchen counter for a couple days, then it'll dry out and it'll stay better. make a roof. Someone says, are you making a house? That was the plan, but it's not going as well as I had hoped. Maybe we'll try a bench. How about that? So I'm gonna start by making some legs. But if your house is going well, then keep on going with it. You guys are probably better than I am at this stuff. So I'm gonna make 4 legs. All about the same height. I'm gonna roll it in my hand. Hopefully you guys can see that. Okay. Got my twigs over here. Move it up a little bit so you guys can see better. And 4 legs. And don't feel that you need to stick to a bench or a house. You can make whatever you want out of your clay. Maybe a fairy bed. Okay, and then I think for the seat, I'm going to make it a flat square. Someone says use Play-Doh tools. Yes, if you have Play-Doh, that would be super helpful. Make that a little bigger. And kind of shape it in a square. I can set that on top. I need to get my legs closer together. Well, hopefully it's going better for you than it is for me. I don't know if you can see my little fairy bench. Can you bake it? Yes, you can bake it. I'm not sure what it is though. I want to say it's like 350. But if you look for salt clay recipe online, you should be able to find what you can bake this as. But if you're not able to bake it, you can also leave it out in the sun or just in a warm place for a couple days, and it'll dry out and stay. Someone says their house needs some sticks to support it. Yeah, that might work for me. Let me put some sticks on the back to make the seat of the bench or the backrest. I'm just going to break my heart. Again, be creative. Do what you can. We can put some clay over top to hold it together. Okay, so I'm not the most artistic. have a little fairy bench that I can put in my garden, but I might want to leave that out to dry so the dirt doesn't all stick to it. I have some extra clay left over if I want to make anything else later. But my clay's a little droopy. Maybe need to leave it sit for a little while. Okay, so that was our first one. Hopefully yours went a little better than mine. But it was worth a shot, and now we know how to make homemade clay. Move this out to dry. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to build is a fairy tent. And this went a little better. I practiced this one ahead of time. So let me get out my garden. You can see I made a little fairy tent teepee. So your clay might come in handy if you don't have a pot like this. You might make the base for your tent out of clay to stick your sticks in. But I'm going to show you how to make that. I'm going to do another one that's right next to it. So I'm going to use some sticks, and I want them all to be about the same length. And I'm going to use 4 of them. So I have a bunch here. I'm going to look for maybe my sturdier twigs, but that I can still break. Break that one in half. It's about the same height. Do the sturdier end on the bottom. I have to break a little piece of this up to make it the same height. Might be a little too small. I have tons of twigs here. Break that off to make it about the same height. I got 3, and I need 1 more. Break a little piece off. Okay, so 4 twigs, all about the same length there. And I'm going to stick them in my dirt, so they're pretty sturdy when they're stuck in there. But if you don't have like a pot with soil, you can use the clay or something else for your base to stick your twigs in. So I'm going to stick them in a square. And push them down so again they're all about the same height. And they're pretty sturdy in there. And then I'm going to take a scrap piece of fabric. So I have this old tie-dye t-shirt, and I'm going to cut it in a square shape. And it doesn't matter if it's a little too big. I would err on the side of larger, because once you put it on, you can cut it to make it the right size. And cut any excess off. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're going to tie it on. So I have a piece of fabric that's a little square. I'm going to take my teepee and sort of push all the tips into the center so that it makes like a triangle shape. You guys can see that okay. And I'm going to wrap this spare piece of fabric around like this, and it's okay if it's a little long. I'm probably going to cut that excess off. Someone said tie-dye is perfect for fairy tents. I agree. I just was lucky enough to have a spare tie-dye shirt. I'm going to take a piece of string, but a twist tie will work just fine too. I'm going to leave a little bit of the sticks sticking out. And I want to make sure my sticks are far enough apart that a fairy could sit inside. There we go. That looks about right, I think. Someone says, me and my mom liked using wild plants and rocks and glass and shells. Oh, seashells would be great for a fairy garden. I'm going to leave a little bit of the tips sticking out. I'm going to take my string, and if you have a twist tie like for bread, that would work too. You're going to wrap that around and tie a knot. You might need a parent's help tying a knot around there. Pull it tight. I'll show you again how I tie the knot. And I'll do that a couple times just to make sure it's nice and sturdy. Okay. Pull this down a little bit, and I'm going to cut this excess off, cut the excess string. I'm going to cut this little bit of excess fabric. And you might put that on the inside of your tent as like a carpet. That would be good. There we go, that's better. I'm going to turn it around. Let my other tent's in the way. I'm going to take this one out. I can show you my other one. You can see it standing up over here. It looks like this on the inside. So it's nice and tied tight around here. I got some of the tops sticking out. And I can just angle that. And then you might want to put some of your extra fabric in the middle there. Just so there's a nice spot for your fairies to lay. And it doesn't have to be perfect. A nice little place for fairies to get some shelter. And that's our tent. I think that went a little bit better than the clay. Cute, very cute. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to make was a fire pit. And this one will be pretty easy. And I have some more fairy facts I'm forgetting to tell you while we're working. So I have these like stones, glass stones, pebbles, marbles, buttons, whatever you have. I'm going to take maybe 5 or 6. And another fun fact about fairies, each and every garden fairy is in charge of looking after their flower or plant, keeping it strong and healthy by making sure it has plenty of sunshine and water to drink, sweeping away dead leaves, and polishing flowers and stems. So that is their job. So I'm going to put my fire pit next to my tent, because that only makes sense. And I'm just going to arrange them in a little circle. I'll show you how I'm going to do it on here first so you can see. Just in a little circle like an actual fire pit, but miniature. And so they made a caterpillar. Ooh. Might need a couple more, maybe like 10 stones, depending on the size of your stones. And I'm going to leave a little opening in the center for my actual fire. So I don't know if you can see that I just made a little circle with the stones. And I'm going to go ahead and put them in my garden that way. And I want to make sure that I leave plenty of room for once I do have flowers. I unfortunately don't have flowers right now. But once I do have flowers, I have space to put them in there for the fairies as well. Another fact about flower fairies. Flower fairies are passionate about music and dancing, and due to this, they host many galas and parties throughout the year. Very interesting. So maybe if you have little twinkle lights, you might want to put some of those up for your fairies to have dances and galas. So I made a little circle for my fire pit. Then I'm going to just take some of my twigs, probably some of my thinner ones, and I'm going to break those up for firewood, fairy firewood. Might need a pair of scissors. I'm getting those strings hanging off. There we go. That might be a little big. There we go. I'm just breaking up so they're like fairy-sized firewood. And again, we're making a couple crafts here today, but you're welcome to be super creative with your fairy garden. Make as many different things as you like. Search online for what you might like, what you think your fairies might like. I think that's pretty good. I have some fairy-sized firewood. I'm just going to make, someone saying I froze. I think we're okay. Hopefully we're okay. If anyone else sees me freezing, let me know. So I'm just going to make like a triangle, like you would for an actual bonfire, but we're making it mini for our fairies. Have you guys ever seen those YouTube videos where they make little like cakes and meals for hamsters? Maybe we'll do that next. That's super cute, if you've ever seen those. People make like teeny tiny little cakes, and then they stick their hamster there, and the hamster eats the cake. Okay. That's looking pretty good. If you guys can see my little fire pit that I put together. If you can't get them to stand up, you can just lay them on top of each other. That works too. If I stick them down in the dirt a little bit, they stay a little better. I have my little fire pit and my little tent. Super cute. And again, if you have your clay, if your clay worked a little better than mine, that might help you keep some things together. Okay. So we also wanted to make a clothesline. So a clothesline is pretty simple. It's just going to be 2 sticks and a piece of string between them. If you have like a pipe cleaner, that would work too. Or even a twist tie, if you can get it between the two, that would work too. But I'm going to use string. So I'm going to take, again, 2 about the same length. I'm going to have a little bit thicker of a twig for this one. That looks about a good size. I'm just going to break it in half evenly. I did a pretty good job. Those are pretty even. Okay. Now I'm going to put them maybe a couple inches apart so they can get a decent amount of clothes on there. And I've seen people also do it in front of their tent, and they make like a little, they put little pieces of fabric on there and make a little chain. It's super cute. But I'm going to make a clothesline, so that looks about a good distance apart. And then I'm going to take a piece of string. I'm going to make it a little longer so that I have plenty of extra string to tie. And then I can just always cut off the excess. So I'm going to tie around 1 twig. And again, if you don't have like a pot of soil, yet. You can always use your clay to stand up the twigs until you can get your pot in soil. Just tying a couple knots to make sure it's nice and tight. And I'm going to move it across and do another knot on the other side. Make sure the string is nice and taut. You don't want it to sink like this, or it won't hold the clothes. Make that nice and tight. Tie another knot. We got 15 minutes. Okay. So I want you to move this over a little bit so that my string is nice and tight. That looks good. I'm tying another extra knot just so that it's on there nice and tight. I'm just going to cut off that excess. You guys can see that? It's like a little clothesline. I need to pull them apart a little bit so that it's nice and tight. There we go. And then I have some extra fabric that I can make little pieces of clothes out of. I can make little triangles to hang over. I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to cut like a square piece out. Or maybe you want to make a blanket, just a square. Cut like the square piece out, and I can hang that over if I wanted to. That might be another way to make a tent, but I'm going to make it a clothesline and do some smaller pieces that I can hang over. Nothing special, just so it looks like some clothes are hanging on there. Or you might want to leave it so that the fairies can hang their own clothes. A little piece of fabric. And I can just hang that over. I need to fold it in half first. There we go. Looks like a little washcloth or something, maybe a towel. Towels. Oh, someone just said you can make towels. Yeah, that's a great idea. Maybe you are more talented than me and can cut it into the shape of a dress for a fairy or a suit. Fold that in half. There we go. We have a little clothesline. So I have my tent, my clothesline, and my fire pit, and then I have kind of a bench. Maybe your clay worked out better than mine. I'm going to let that dry. Okay, and then the last thing we wanted to do was a fence, or you can also do a pathway. So I have some extra stones if I wanted to make a pathway. Or I have some more sticks if I want to make a fence. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll do both. We have a little bit of time. Someone says you can make dishes. Oh, with the clay, if you make like little tiny dishes and let those dry out, that would be really cute. I love all these ideas. Keep sending in your ideas. So I'm going to make my, to make my fence, I'm going to, again, make all my sticks about the same length. And I've seen people also make like little like petting zoos. So if you have animal figurines, I know some people have those, you can make like a square enclosure with your twigs and put your little animals in there. That would be cute. So I'm just going to make a little fence around the outside. You might want to make them a little longer so that when I stick them in the dirt, they'll kind of stay in there. This is good. This is a good engineering activity because you have to see what works, what stays, what might be helpful to make it stay better, you test it, you do it again. That would be our engineering design process. You brainstorm, you design, you test, you redesign. I'm sure I'm missing something. Has anyone done the Think Like an Engineering journey? You can make a store. That would be cool. Maybe you have, you guys are probably much more talented at this than I am. I'm just making a little fence on the outside. And you might use your string to tie them together. I'm just going to stick my twigs in here. So I have kind of a little fence around the outside. And then I want to make sure to leave plenty of room, like around the outside, maybe some space in here for flowers once I have them, or moss. I'll have to go out and get moss after this is all over for my fairy garden. I think that's a great idea. You could use a Lego pet for a pet. Oh, that's a great idea. Okay. I think that's a pretty good fence. But I definitely like my tent and my little clothesline. That turned out really cute. Okay, and then if you want to make a pathway, if you have some extra stones, you can make maybe a pathway to my tent. Oh, a power line. I know they sell really tiny like lights, string lights. So if you have any of those, maybe you have some of those on hand. Or once this is over and you go out shopping to the craft store. I'm running out of time and I still have some gardening stuff to get through, so. Oh, those stones are falling. You can see that's my fairy garden. I wish I had some flowers to put in there that would make it extra pretty, but at least this is a start, and I've left some room around the outside and in the center to put some flowers for my fairies. So super cute. I'd love to see what you guys made. Keep commenting some ideas that you have. Send us some photos of what you made. If you have flowers in there too, we would love to see that. But that's my little fairy garden. I think it turned out pretty good. Okay, so I have some fun facts about gardening, and we have a true and false one. If you were on our nature fun, we did a true and false. So we're going to do that again as well. And if you're still making your crafts, feel free to keep making. Give me your ideas. Somebody's saying fairy lights. Yes, fairy lights would be awesome. Okay, so I think I have a couple more fun facts about fairies, and then we'll talk about some gardening fun facts. So it is true that each fairy has extra sensitive ears, so if they hear someone coming close to them, they are careful to flutter away in their own flower and curl up tightly. They have very good ears. Good to know. They blend in so easily due to their creative outfit choices made from their own leaves and flowers, so it is easy for them to hide. So we definitely want to put some flowers in there, because that's where our fairies will live. Okay, so some plants, and I have some pictures of plants that are good for fairies that fairies really like. Okay, so you can plant seeds or small plants to your fairy garden. You can even plant artificial flowers. There are some plants that fairies especially love, and I have some pictures of those. So they like bluebells. Here's a picture of bluebells. Fairies are summoned to their dances by the ringing of these tiny flowers, and you can see they are in the shape of a little bell. Another thing that fairies like are mushrooms. So here's a picture of a mushroom. They're used by fairies as tables and stools. So if you can plant some mushrooms, That would be nice to have some table and chairs for your fairies to dine at. And then we have peonies, a beautiful pink flower there. Peonies are used by fairies. Their seeds are used by fairies for necklaces and are used to protect children. So you can see that if you closed up all those petals in the center, that would be a really good hiding place. And I think those petals would make a nice dress for a fairy too, because they're pink and fluttery. What do you guys think? Nice outfit? And then we have poppies. These red ones are poppies. Again, I think this would be a great one for a fairy outfit because the petals are super colorful and they can make a dress outfit. So these can be used to bring fairies into your dreams. So if you want fairies in your dreams, maybe you plant some of these in your fairy garden. And then the last one is ragwort. Here's a picture of them here. And these, as well as cabbage stalks, grass, and straw, are used by fairies for transportation in the same manner as a witch uses a broom. So you can see they have long, thick stems that could be used for transportation. So some fun facts that have been passed down over the years about fairies. So super cute. So now that we've gone over a little bit of the kind of flowers fairies like, we'll talk a little bit about gardening. So by adding flowers to your flower garden, you are making an ecosystem. Can anyone tell me what an ecosystem is? Any ideas of what is an ecosystem? I'll give you guys a second. You're a little behind me. What is an ecosystem? A habitat, yep. Habitat, a bunch of species and plants living together where people and animals live. Yeah, all good answers. So the definition of an ecosystem is any environment in which organisms can live and thrive. Some examples are deserts, plains, even the side of a mountain can be its own ecosystem. Did you know that ecosystem exists in bodies of water like oceans, rivers, and lakes? So that's good to know. We've kind of made our own tiny little ecosystem for fairies to live in. And then some facts about planting, some gardening 101. We want to make sure that we're ensuring the best environment for our plants. So we want to choose the right plants for our soil. Many plants thrive better in one type of soil than the other, and you can check out more information on the USDA's website, as well as kidsgardening.org/gardening basics, and we'll link those in the comments if you guys are interested in reading a little more about that, finding out what kind of soil you have and what plants might grow best in that soil. Make sure you are always gentle with new plants. If you remove new plants from their pots by pulling their stems, you're likely to break or bruise them. So you can actually bruise your plants, which isn't good for them. When planting, make sure to soak the roots of a new plant before you put it in the soil. I actually didn't know that one. I guess to get them some water before you put them in there. Container plants will need regular watering. So if you have plants in your fairy garden, make sure you water them. You might want to look up, depending on what flowers you have, some plants like a lot of water, some plants only like a little water, some plants like a lot of sunshine, some plants only like a little. So make sure, depending on what plants you choose, do your research, figure out what they like the best, and you'll have some happy plants. And I can't really speak to that because I do have plants, and I tend to kill them. So hopefully you guys will do better than me. I can't wait to see what you guys plant. And the last thing is just have fun with it. Allow yourself to experiment with different types of plants, sunshine, water, see what works best for your plants. So last, I know we only have a little bit of time left, but we have some true and false questions about plants that we'll go over. So our first question is, some plants are more fragrant at night. Is that true or false? And to answer, type in the number 1 and then T or F next to it, so I know what question you're answering. And thank you guys for linking those websites in the comments. Someone says true. Any other guesses? Someone else says false. Another true. 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 Yes. Good job. That is true. Lavender and moonflower are 2 examples of plants that are more fragrant at night, which makes them perfect for planting in a moon garden. So you might want to put those in your fairy garden if your fairies are active at night. The next question is 2, so make sure you put a number 2 next to it. Plants do not ever need water on their leaves. True or false? Someone says false. Someone else says true. Someone has answered all of them already, says they're all true. The second one is true. Plants do not ever need water on their leaves. They need water at their roots. So a little bit of a trick question. Plants do need water, but you don't water them on their leaves. You water them at their roots because that's where they soak up the water. Number 3, don't leave potted plants sitting in water longer than 10 minutes. True or false? Some people saying false, some people saying true. Someone saying they're all true. Number 3, true or false? Number 3 is also true. If left to linger in water beyond 10 minutes, plants' roots will take on too much water. Always empty out saucers after you water. So I have a saucer here that I can show you. So I have this saucer that I'm leaving under my fairy garden. So when I water it, if any water comes out the bottom, then I want to go ahead and remove that and dump it out because I don't want my flowers to sit in there because that's the water that they didn't need. That was excess water. Okay, back to our true and false. Number 4, most houseplants should be watered less frequently in winter than summer. Is 4 true or false? Some people saying true. Someone says true. 4 is true. 4 is true. Yes, it looks like most people are saying true. That is correct. There are 2 major reasons for reducing your watering schedule during winter. First is temperatures fall, the rate of evaporation decreases, so the water that's evaporating into the air. And 2, most houseplants cease growing during the winter months and thereby require less sustenance. So 4 is true. They don't need to be watered as much in the winter. And the last one, citrus fruit plants that are grown from seed will not fruit indoors. True or false? Someone saying all true. 5 is true. Another true. All right, looks like everyone's saying true. That is correct. For fruit-bearing plants, buy citrus fruits that were grown from stem cuttings. So if you want a fruit plant that will bear fruit, you want to get them from stem cuttings. Good to know. So everyone that said all true, you were right. All of those true and false questions were true. Sorry to trick you there. They were all true. No falses in there. But with that, I know we're over a couple minutes, so thank you guys for sticking with me. but you've done everything to earn your fairy gardening patch. We learned a little bit about fairies, a little bit about gardening. We made some crafts for our fairy garden. I'd love to see what you guys have made, especially if you made something that we didn't make with some materials that we didn't use. And then I'm actually going to give this to my mom, maybe for Mother's Day. I know Mother's Day is coming up, but hopefully we can get some flowers in there for her too. So thank you guys again for joining me. You've earned your fairy gardening patch. We'll link in the comments where you can go to order that patch. There's a form that you can fill out. But otherwise, have a wonderful day. Stay safe, stay healthy, and thank you for taking the time out of your day to join me. Bye, everyone.